In this section of the lesson, we will look at some of the guiding principles that help us to decide if a user experience, especially in the digital space, which is increasingly relevant in today's world, is positive or could be better. So the first thing we are looking at is the list. So it should be useful, meaning that the whatever you put into the website needs to be original, it needs to fulfill a need. It needs to be usable, meaning that people can actually figure out how to use it. Things like must be easy to find come to mind. It must be desirable, meaning that design elements should be thought about in detail, and should bring about an emotion or appreciation of the content. Findable with reference to where the different links or icons or content on the site, it needs to be locatable and navigable both offsite and onsite. On the fifth point, we have accessible. Content needs to be accessible to people with disabilities. And finally, credible, where users need to believe and trust what you tell them. So for example, this is actually a travel guide that was launched by DBS Bank, and what they actually did was they actually followed the customer's journey of traveling. So what do customers do before traveling, while traveling, and after traveling? And within before traveling, they have all the different steps, planning their travel, ensuring benefits and rewards, as well as the marketplace. So by looking at things from a customer perspective, they start to make the whole interface or the content more useful to the customer. Usable, meaning that it should be something that shouldn't be very difficult to process. So for example, if you look at this set of parking signs, would you be able to, if you came across this street possibly on Wednesday afternoon 3 p.m., would you be able to quickly understand whether you are allowed to park? It might be tough and you might need to spend some time. So by converting it to a infographic style where it's actually very straightforward, and if I were at 3 p.m., I would know that, hey, I have to wait for an hour before I can start parking, as represented by the first column. Next, desirable. I'm sure all of you know of this brand. It's basically, when there's a new launch, or in the past, when there was a new launch, there was a long queue waiting to purchase Apple products. These days, maybe not as much, but they are still at the pinnacle of like making their products desirable. And I'm sure like still a good proportion of us use Apple products because it's so desirable. They've done such a great job with the aesthetics, with the product, with the way it looks and feels, and so on. Okay, so findable on site. This refers to, if you look at the interface like this, it's really difficult to try and, figure out, look for the item that you're looking for. Especially, it looks like just a lot of words on the screen, very difficult to find. So how can you structure your page so that it's easy to navigate? So for offsite, if you are looking for, if people need to find you, are they able to find you when they Google travel insurance? So if, for example, if I'm selling travel insurance, am I on the first page of the Google search results? So if I'm not, then how do I get there? So there is a whole domain called SEO, search engine optimization, that deals with trying to rank higher. But the basic premise is that as long as your content is relevant and people like it, you tend to be able to rank highly on certain search keywords. Accessible, meaning that, hey, if someone is blind or deaf, what are some resources that you can provide them so that they can access the website? So for example, there could be certain websites where if the person is deaf, or rather if the person is blind, landing on the website will get the computer to read out what is on the page. So that allows the blind person to actually navigate the site. So there are companies set up to actually allow you to do things like that, and this is one such company. And of course, you need to be credible. So that is where, all your reviews come in. And as you operate, you need to make sure that whatever service that you are offering is credible. People are leaving good reviews. They are saying good things about you on the web. And should there be any negative experiences, you will need to manage them accordingly. And that brings us to the end of the guidelines. And in the next section, we will talk about defining the project statement and the challenge for this particular module.